Hey everyone, it's Ryan Landau from Purpose Jobs. I'm pumped to have you join us for our video series, Finding Balance. Work-life balance continues to rank as a top priority for job seekers. So I'm sitting down with some friends to talk about how they balance work, life, and everything else going on. I hope you're a little inspired from today's episode. Enjoy.
Cool. Well, let's get it kicked off. And Fro, thanks for being here today on our video series, Finding Balance. Before, I was going to introduce you, Fro, but it probably makes more sense for you just to introduce yourself. Do you mind just giving some background on who's Fro, who's Alex? Would love to hear just like a little bit of work, a little bit of personal, whatever you can give us would be awesome.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Alex Frommeyer. Everybody calls me Fro. I'm one of the founders of and the CEO at Beam Benefits, where we do digital employee benefits, products like dental insurance, vision, life, disability coverage, everything a small business needs to offer the benefits that help attract and retain talent and help a business do what they do best. My background, I grew up in Kentucky on about 75 acres of woods and farmland, so I was outside all the time as a kid. I still like to be outside as often as possible. Can't wait for it to warm up here in Ohio so I can get back on the bike. I'm a big cyclist during the warm months, and I love spending time working on achieving our mission and vision at Beam. And I love time breaking a sweat, getting away, and thinking about different things that might be nose buried in a book, or it might be outside doing something active.
Cool. Lots of questions for you. How did you get from Kentucky to Columbus?
In 2014, we raised our first institutional round of capital from Drive Capital, who's based in Columbus, large VC firm. And they were actually themselves just getting started as a venture firm. So we were a startup and they were a startup really at the same time. And we started coming up to Columbus, working on the investment deal, and really got turned on to the Columbus market from a talent perspective. The talent in Columbus and in Ohio, I think, is spectacular. A bit of a hidden gem or a bit of a Goldilocks, because there's a lot of talent here, but it's not as well understood as it is in the big coastal markets. So we've been able to build these phenomenal teams of Beamers with a heavy concentration here in Central Ohio.
Cool. Yeah, it's pretty, and I'm sure you've seen evolution of the talent scene in Columbus since you started into like where we are today with a hiccup of COVID and stuff like that. On the cycling front, I actually used to and still do cycle a bunch. I've done a few Ironmans. Where are we cycling in Columbus? Road bikes, mountain bikes? What gets you going?
I'm a road biker. I've got a nice matte black Specialized. Love to get on. I go for 60, 90 minutes at a time. Just find a trail, hit a trail in Columbus and go for it. See where it leads. It's been actually a really fun way to explore the city as well.
Cool. I love it. Fro, when you're thinking about your day, there's obviously a lot on your plate. How do you think about quote unquote finding balance? So there's work, there's biking. I'm sure there's family stuff in the mix somewhat. How are you balancing that all in the 24 hours that we all have?
I like to think about energy and then the optimization of how I use that energy in any given day. So I like the battery analogy. Getting away is recharging the batteries. Going to bed every night is recharging the batteries. I wake up in the morning with some amount of energy, call it 10 units of energy. And so my goal in any given day is really working backwards from the premise of I have 10 units of energy to work with. What do I want to do with those units of energy? And I think it's up to each person to decide how they want to allocate their 10 units of energy across all of their obligations and interests in life, professionally, personally, et cetera. The way I think about it in my life is waking up with those 10 units of energy. I want to spend as many of them as I can on my business, and I want to spend my first units of energy on my business. So I start each day. Unlike others who might start with a workout, they might start with some family stuff, I start every day with work because I want to spend those high quality units of energy when the batteries are mostly charged, when I'm fresh, when I'm thinking clearly, when I've got tons of I'm a natural introvert, so I got to bring in my extrovert energy. That all happens in the first half of the day. So I burn down a lot of my energy on work, on building Beam. And then I love breaking a sweat after hours. So 6, 7 o'clock, I set my pencil down, my virtual pencil, and I usually pick up some weights, or I play some squash, or I go for a bike ride. That kind of clears my mind and actually gives me energy back for the evening and personal and professional pursuits at the end of the day.
Cool. Yeah, I think you hit on so many like important things. One is like everyone has like different like peak performance hours. Like, is it morning, night? Like, when are you doing that? And then also, I was reading a little bit on like just also like the flow of energy, right? So you have these 10 units that you talked about. Is like sometimes not all 10 units are going to like positive things. So like, how can you make sure those 10 units are going to like the most productive things rather than just like dividing and conquering? Because like 10 units is not going to turn into 50 units, right? You only have so much units in so many days. Is there ever a point, Fro, where you're like, shit, like things feel like out of balance, and then like how do you like autocorrect to get back there?
It's such a fantastic question. The way I think about it is I want to get something big and important done every day. I feel pretty unaccomplished, actually, even if I'm working throughout the day, but only getting like tiny tasks done. So I want to get something like interesting or material done every day. The way I approach it, though, is I have to warm up. Just like an athlete, right? You don't hit the field and throw, the first pass as a touchdown. You're going to want like a quick 5-yard slant on your first play, get the flow, see the ball go into the receiver's hands, get a couple reps in. And you got to stretch out before even the game starts. So I usually start my day with a lot of small, easy tasks. I get a bunch of quick wins, just get some dopamine hits, fire off some emails, crank through some things that are like super easy to knock out. Sometimes I even save a couple really easy things that I can start my day with. So I have the feeling of accomplishment right away. Before other people have even started working, I'm already hitting a couple of accomplishments. That actually gives me more energy, and that's when I try to hit the big thing. So I'll try to set aside an hour to 2 every morning if I can. That's not always possible. And in that first couple hours of the day, I'm going to bang out a handful of easy wins, and then I'm going to parlay that into the big thing I want to accomplish that day. If I can get that done before 9:30, I'm already set up for like a fantastic day, and I actually find myself getting more energy throughout the rest of that morning and into the later part of that day.
Cool. I love it. And, I think something interesting about like what you're building over there, Fro, is you guys are, let's call it, I don't know the exact time frame, 10 years, 11 years, like overnight success. But one of the things is just being like a outsider perspective is, Beam has been consistent, right? I think we're living in a time where people are always like, oh, that's like a sexy, shiny object. Like, you guys have been doing your thing and been focused and building for the long run. So I think that's like really impressive. I think like also thinking about retention and stuff like that, like how do you think about like, one, how many people are at Beam? And then like, how do you balance just like, right, you got to move the business forward, but then also at the same time, like working with your team members to make sure that they're achieving some type of work-life balance. So they're just not in and out, of the business in a year or two.
I think it's really helpful for our team, which is 350 plus people these days. I think it's helpful for them to know that in a kind of world of chaos, and startups are obviously very chaotic, growth companies are very chaotic, that there is some sort of consistency. And one of the things that I personally represent for our company and my 2 co-founders, who are both really actively involved in the business 10 years later as well, is that we are here. We're here every day. We're here the exact same way we were 10 years ago. And we plan to still be here, picking up our lunch pail and taking it to work every day 10 years from now. And I think that's something I didn't realize was valuable or even maybe appreciated by our team early on. Yeah. Because I'm just doing what I do, right? Wake up every day, pick up the lunch pail, get to work, start plugging away on the day's problems, on the day's tasks. But over time, I've realized what a value it is to have not just a leader who's visible and engaged in the business, but one that is clearly not thinking about short-term outcomes, but long-term wins. in that business. And that consistency, I think, helps smooth out the curves. When we describe this culturally as a business, we have a culture deck that we use to granularly describe all the elements of our culture. One of these is on work-life balance. And the way we describe it to our team is, no matter how many hours you're investing in your professional life, it's a lot. It's going to be a big portion of your life. You're going to, roughly speaking, sleep a third of your hours, you're going to work a third of your hours, and then you're going to live your life in that final third, more or less. And so we are talking at Beam about a third of your life, or a third of your time for some portion of your life. That's a really significant investment. And the way we think about it, or kind of guide our teams to think about it, is do this soul search for yourself. Take the time to understand, what are your goals? What do you care about? Where do you want to spend that third of your time? Do this check-in quarterly. And if Beam is still the answer, if we are the right place for you to spend your time and invest your time, we'll continue and would love to continue building that relationship and offering the growth and the support and the opportunities that we are very fortunate to do as a business. But if you ever see the opportunity to do something else with that time, you should take that really seriously, because I do. It's a very serious investment of your time, because you can't get it back. And it's easy to just kind of slip into this, climbing the corporate ladder, getting the salary, getting that 2-week payroll run, and you just kind of go through your corporate or career motions. I think it is totally worth taking a step back pretty routinely and making sure that this huge investment of your time, a third of your life, is being allocated in a way that you're proud of and you're happy with.
Totally. And there's some sense of purpose about the work, right? You're helping businesses, you're helping companies with these benefits, which makes a lot of sense, right? Bro, you have about, you said 300 plus people at the company. How would you define success at the company? Is that raising the next round, working with X amount of employers out there, internally, how do you talk about success?
We have resisted, I think successfully, attaching our success as a business to the business building blocks that others view as milestones. Raising money is a great one. We had raised our Series C back in 2018. It was from Kleiner Perkins, one of the biggest and best venture firms in the world. And we were really happy to get the fundraise done, as you always are, but chose strategically. This is when our team was 60 or 70 people. Everyone knew we were raising, and they were waiting for the announcement. They were expecting a party, let's say, or something approaching that, some sort of big, notable celebration. I called an all hands. It's still the only time I've done it like this. I called an impromptu all hands, which was just physically gathering everyone in the office. Remember, this is 2018, so we're pre-pandemic. Everybody was in the office. Gathered everybody together and said, guys, just so you know, we just raised $22 million led by Kleiner Perkins. This will be the only time we ever talk about it. Here's how we're going to put the money to work to help the business achieve its goals both this year and in future years. And the reason we're not going to talk about it anymore is what we have done by raising capital is we have sold a tiny portion of the business to investors who are going to help us grow, but they have huge expectations. So now's the time to double down on everything that we're working on, increase velocity, increase our ambition as a business. But this wasn't successful. This was a successful financing of the business, but all we've done is earn ourselves an opportunity to take the next step forward as a business for our customers, for our partners, to achieve our vision. And the entire company, you could kind of see everybody go wait, this is literally all we're going to do is this 5-minute, very informal meeting, because they had heard from other companies raising, capital that, there's a lot more to it than that from a celebration perspective. And in those moments early on in the business, you can get a sense of how cultures slowly but subtly diverge from one another. And what we've been able to craft at Beam is an approach that centers around our customers and the small businesses that we serve, and has resisted the urge to celebrate hiring as an achievement, to celebrate financings as an achievement, or other company building blocks. Instead, we really celebrate when we win customers and when we retain customers and when we delight customers. So we spend more time on our latest and greatest NPS results as we did on that huge financing from Kleiner a few years ago.
Yeah, it's so funny and basic because, like, I think from an outsider perspective, people see like fundraising and headcount as just like those are how you know a successful company is successful, when they're neither. Actually, it's just like raising money increases the expectation, decreases the probability of you being successful, and headcount is just like adding more overhead and stuff like that. Happy customers are adding revenue. Like, that is the best way to like fund a business. So I appreciate, I don't even want to call it this, but I appreciate the old school way of thinking, AKA just like building a business. So I think that's like super interesting and encouraging. And I think also that's what, like, right, we're going to have about 70,000 job seekers probably like watch this and engage with this content. Like, that's what job seekers are looking for, like working for a leader like Fro that's building a stable business, not the next like shiny object that's going to be cool for like a couple of years. And then like, who knows what's going to happen from there.
We like to take an approach that is very centric around not the status symbols of what we're building, but what's real. I always, like, one of my most common phrases internally at Beam is, I like to know what is real, not the optics. And there's a lot of optics in business. It's so easy, especially in a chaotic startup environment. It is so easy to say, well, the reason that we didn't do the one thing was because the other thing happened. And all that context is often actually quite true and relevant. But you can also use it to sweep under the rug the things that aren't going so well. And you can begin to convince yourself that what things seem like is what they actually are. And I think we're seeing, like, in this moment, for example, in the market, the talent market, the fundraising market, the startup sector in general, has revealed itself to be full of companies where things seem like they are X, but they actually are something else. And I don't think anybody's doing anything, I mean, only in extreme cases like fraudulent or problematic, but you begin to convince yourself that the optics of your business are the realities of your business. And where you see the most successful businesses over time emerge are the ones that are much closer to that lunch pail approach. They take themselves seriously. They take how they make decisions and allocate resources really seriously. And they take their people seriously. They invest in people and trying to put people in the best position they can to win, which, by the way, is not giving everybody endless promotions and comp increases. It's putting people in a position so they can succeed and they're in the right place and the right level in the organization to be successful. And that sort of discipline gets lost when we're in these big bull markets and everybody's raising money and everybody's adding headcount. And then all of a sudden that discipline goes from being a sideshow to the thing when the market seizes up a little bit. So we're starting to see that play out even today, real time.
Yeah, completely same page. Transparently, Fro, before this call, I was doing my own like little independent research on Fro. I actually couldn't find that much. I was trying to find articles where you were talking about yourself, where you were, just going into like kind of those shiny object things. I literally found zero. So it's interesting to me what you're saying. And it's like encouraging what you're saying is obviously just like playing out in reality. And you haven't been doing it for a year or just overnight, right? You've been thinking about this and building for 10 years, right? That's like a real business and a real timeline. And so one, just like congrats to you and the team. Here's my last question. I know it's a loaded one. We're coming up on the summer. Fro, what are we thinking about? What are we excited about from a business standpoint? Any bike trails we're going on? Travel trips? What is Fro thinking about the summer coming up?
I'll do business and personal. Business, we have multiple new products launching this year, which we're really excited about. About 6 months ago, we changed our name from Beam Dental to Beam Benefits. Beam Dental was a point solution focused on dental insurance. Beam Benefits is going after all employee benefits. So we're in this cycle of R&D and product development and introducing new products, which has been super fun. More coming here in the summer that prepares us for our big seasonal push, which always happens in Q4. On the personal front, my parents are not travelers, like at all. They're both healthy. They're both in their early mid-60s. And so my wife and I think, have finally convinced my parents to meaningfully travel for the first time. We are going to get, especially my mom, is definitely not a traveler, we are going to get both of them on a plane to go see the Vatican and Rome and Italy. It'll be both of their first time in Italy, and we're going to be kind of taking them there, which for me I'm incredibly excited about because it's going to be such a different thing for them, and they're currently both, nervous about it, but as soon as we land and they experience some of the stuff they're going to experience, it's going to be a lifetime memory for them, and I think a lifetime memory for me as well.
Cool. I'm excited for you. It'll also just be interesting to see, like, through your eyes, like their reactions and stuff like that to all those like first time things. So super exciting. Fro, I don't have anything else besides just thank you for your time. Appreciate you. And continuing to do what you do. And I would say net just appreciate your consistency literally all around. So thank you, and thank you, my friend.
Thanks, man. Much appreciated.